Okay, so this is the second part of the email activation tutorial. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm not actually going to be doing any programming at all. I'm not going to be coding this out. I'm basically going to run through the process. The reason being is it's a long-winded script. You can see if I just scroll all the way down. And I think the best thing to do would just be to roll through this and explain each part of it. If you are typing this out from the tutorial, that might make it easier for you. Otherwise, just sit back, relax, and I'll explain this, and hopefully you'll learn a thing or two. Okay, so the first thing, we're not going to start at the top of the script, we're going to start at the bottom. This is the register form here. We've got it in HTML here. Obviously our action is going to go straight back to our register.php. We're currently in this file, and our method is going to be post, just for reasons being security firstly, and also that we might send long data and that get can't handle. We've just got choose username, and we've got an input text here, and then we've got choose password, and then an input text here with the type of password, so it's sort of starred out, and then we've got the email address. So it's a pretty standard form. Then we've got a button here. So that will submit this data back into this script. So then at the top of the script we can get the form data here. Now we're using this if statement here. We're going to say if underscore post register. Now basically what this does is if we come down, it's just this label here. So it means if the button has been clicked, because we don't want the this script here to run if the button hasn't already been clicked. So we're taking our username, password, and our email address, email being the most important, and we're adding slashes, stripping tags just for security reasons. Add slashes stops things like SQL injection. Obviously if you're using single inverted commas, quotation marks if you like, but single ones, then this is going to add slashes and stop SQL injection. Okay, then we're doing a basic bit of validation here. We're just saying if doesn't exist username and doesn't exist password and doesn't exist email address, we're going to say fill out all fields. Coming back down, we're encrypting our password because when we register we want to put an MD5 encrypted password in. If you don't know what that is, give it a read up. It's just a form of encryption. And then we're checking if the username is already taken. So this check here is just going to say MySQL Query, which is our function, select star from users where the username equals the username variable that the user has provided. And then if the rows is bigger than or equal to 1, so if a row is returned with the username equaling the one that they've given, then we're going to say username already taken. So presumably this will never really, if our script does work properly, this is never really going to produce anything bigger than 1, but I just use this for nice validation and assurance really that we're definitely not registering the same user again. Okay, so now the most important part, this is relative to this tutorial. We've got a code here. We're generating a random code. Now you can really create this in any way you like. You can make it as fancy as you like or as simple as you like. What I've basically done is use the rand function, which picks a random number between this number here and this number here. So it's likely we're going to have a different random number every time. Now if we are having the same random number, we're going to have problems. So what I recommend you do is make this as unique as you possibly can. Okay, so now we're going to send the activation email. So this is the email part of it. Now, if you don't know how to send email in PHP, then this is obviously for you. I've put a to variable here which equals email. Now this is the email that's already provided. I've put this back into another variable just to sort of keep everything together and make it a bit more simple so you can understand it. So this is the email address we're sending to. So the email that up here was provided in the form. Let's go back down again. Okay, now subject can just be any text subject, so I've put activate your account, like you saw in the thing here. If we go up, activate your account, that's what was displayed to the user in the subject. And we've got our headers here. Now this is quite important. A lot of mail servers don't let you send email unless it's from something, obviously, so you need to sort of abide by this structure. So we've got headers, obviously you can call this variable anything you like. We've got from, and then a colon, a space, and then the email address that is from. So this can really be anything. I've put alex at phpacademy.info because I'm working from my server, so phpacademy.info, it makes a sensible choice, and then I've got my name at the start of the app. This can be anything, which leads to sort of the anonymous email issue, but I'm just going to keep it simple, keep it relative to my website. Okay, and now the body, which is again brings in a really important part. We're going to say hello username, so we're addressing the user by the username that they registered by. We're using a \n, which is a new line, so we're going down a paragraph, so 2 new lines. And I've put just some fancy text like you've registered and need to activate your account. This matches obviously the one you saw in the email earlier. Click the link below or paste it into the URL bar of your browser. New line, new line. Okay, so we've got the web address here. Now what this is going to point to is our activate.php page. So I've got phpacademy.info/tutorials/email activation/activate.php. So that's basically within this directory here. So we've got all our files, and then we've got activate.php. Okay, and then we've got code equals, and then all you need to do is put the code in there that you've randomly generated, the one up here. So that puts the randomly generated code in, and that has appeared, you can see here. So we've got a random code here, and then a couple of more lines, and then thanks. So just being polite. Now we want to send the email, but what we're doing is we don't want to register the user if the email function is going to fail. So we don't want to register them a bit later on if this is going to fail. So I've put this function inside a bracket, inside an if statement, sorry, and I've put an exclamation mark. So this basically means if this hasn't sent, now this mail function will execute anyway, even if it's inside an if statement, but we're saying if it hasn't sent, say we couldn't sign you up at this time, please try again later. So this will send regardless, but at the same time it'll check it. And basically we've got our 4 parameters in here. We've got 2, which is our email address, subject, which is our subject here. Remember, this does have to go in this order. Then we've got body, which is here, and we've got headers, which is here. So we've got our 4 essential, well, not essential, but our 4 essential for this purpose parameters inside our mail function. That code, that function alone there, will send the email to the email address you've provided. So that's, as long as that's sent, we're going to come onto this code here inside this block, and we're going to say register into database. So we've got a register variable, and we've got MySQL Query. So you've probably seen this before. Insert into users, which is our table name, values. The first here is ID. Let's go back to structure. Okay, so our first one is ID. Let's just close this off. First one is ID, so we don't need to put anything there. That'll automatically increment. We've got our username, which matches up here. Then we've got password and email. So we've got password and email. Now this is the really important, crucial step, putting the code in here. So the code variable that you've put out in the email has to match the code that's going into the database next to their name. So code, that's obviously a type of integer, and we've got our active one here, our active column here, which we're going to automatically set to 0 because the email account isn't active. And then we're just going to display our little message: you have been registered successfully, please check your email, their email in brackets so they know which email it's sent to, just in case they forget, and then to activate your account. So that's pretty much that process done, and yeah, that's going to send out the email, that's going to put the code into the database and await their activation. Okay, so the next thing to look at is the activate.php script, and I'm going to follow this through in an email. Let's go back to my inbox. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to register another account. I'm going to choose the username Kyle. I'm going to choose the password 123, even though it'll be MD5 encrypted, and I'm just going to choose my email address again. I'm going to click register. Okay, you've been registered successfully. Please check your email, and then my email in brackets, like you just saw in the last script I went through. Click on my email, click on inbox, and I've got an email. Okay, so hello Kyle, you registered and need to activate your account. Blah blah blah. There's the link. There's the code. What I'm going to do before I click on it is I'm going to go into the database, click browse. I'm going to come down. You can see that the new record's been inserted. We've got the password, which is encrypted. We've got the email address here, and we've got this code. Most importantly, we've got active set to 0. So this code should match this code here, which it does. So when we click on this, we're going to go through the activate process. It's going to go, like I said in the, like I put before, it goes into the email body and displays to the user as a link, and it is a get variable inside our active.php. So if you come back to here, you can see activate.php, and then we've got a question mark for our variables after this. Code equals the code. So presumably when you click this, it'll go to activate.php, and this code variable will be sent as a get variable to that page. So if we open up activate.php, we can have a look inside. Okay, so we've got include global, that's just standard. We need to include everything that I've shown you. And then we've got code equals $_get code. So this is the code that we are taking into account from the email here. Now, I need to sort of point out that if you do go on activate.php on its own, it will say no code supplied. This is due to this if statement here. If no code, then echo no code supplied. So that pretty much avoids people just, you know, coming into the script and it sort of tells them that there's no code supplied. Okay, so now we're going to check that if the user has already activated their account. So we're using our MySQL query. We're selecting everything from users where the code equals our specific code here, which has been supplied here because we put this into a variable, and active equals 1. So if they're supplying a code but their account is already activated, so if active equals 1, then we're using this MySQL num_rows equals 1 check to say you've already activated your account. So if this row is returned, then our MySQL num_rows of this query here will return a 1. So we're basically putting this check and having this output if that's true. So otherwise they haven't activated their account, so we need to activate their account. So we have this activate link here, activate variable here, and we have a MySQL query, and the query goes like this: update users, so we're updating our users table, set active equals 1 where code equals the code supplied. So the code that is supplied is unique to the user, so therefore as long as the code supplied here is correct, active next to their name will be set to 1. So if we run this query through, sort of like dry run it, the code here is set to this. Oh, completely the wrong thing. So if the code here, this is basically what it'd look like if you ran it through on its own as a standalone query. We have update users set active equals 1 where code equals that. So what this query does is say, well, the code equals this here, which is this user here, Kyle. So we're going to set this active here to 1. So it's setting active 1 unique to the code that's supplied through the email. So it's pretty simple if you think about it, but obviously this needs to be code because we're using a variable that's been supplied, and then as soon as that's completed, we're saying active, your account has been activated. So that will basically update that, and that will activate that, and then let the user log in. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to come back to our login page, so that's index.php, and I'm going to try and log in as Kyle. Now remember, the active is set to 0 at the moment. Okay, you haven't activated your account, please check your email, and again we're giving the email that was used. So why is this happening? Let's go into our index.php, and this is something to do with the login process. Now let me run through the login process. Again, we've got a form down here that's just basically our username, password, and then a submit button. We're using a method of post. We're jumping all the way up to the top as it's a self-submitting form. And the first thing we're doing is grabbing the session username, which is what we're going to set if the user is logged in. Then we're checking for our post login, which is basically this label here, which is basically saying, has this form been submitted, has this button been pressed. Then we're going to get the form data. So this is the username, the password. Again, we're using add slashes and strip tags for security purposes. We're doing a little bit of validation. We're saying if the username doesn't exist or the password doesn't exist, we're going to say enter a username and password. And then if that's all successful, we're going to log in. So the start of the login process is selecting everything from users where username equals our username supplied. And then we're saying if this row is returned as 0, we're just saying no such user. Because if this fails, we've selected a user that basically doesn't exist. Okay, then otherwise we're starting a while loop here. And what we're doing is you may have seen this from my other tutorials or somewhere else. This basically allows you to loop through the database using the MySQL fetch associative function. And this puts this variable as an associative array and lets you take each specific column from the database. So what we're doing is we're looping. By the way, just to let you know, this is a secure way of logging in. So this is the reason I'm using this and not saying and password equals blah blah blah, because that's susceptible. Even though we've done our extra strip slashes, we don't want any SQL injections, so we're sort of delving deeper into the database to grab these out. Okay, so the password database, this is a new variable I'm creating, is login row. Notice this from here, and then we're using square brackets to signify this is an array, and that's password. So this password label here is essentially the same as this password label here. So we're grabbing the password, then we're encrypting the form password so we can match it to the encrypted password in the database. So we're saying password, overwriting this variable and encrypting that with MD5 encryption, and then we're checking the password. So we're saying if the password doesn't equal the password in the database, then we're going to say incorrect password. I'm not going to let them in. Otherwise, we need to do the active check. So this again relates to the tutorial. Our active is login row active, so this column here. Oh, now I clicked on that. And then our email is just for sort of like show, we're telling the user what their email address is just in case they forget. So we've got our active. This is either going to be 0 or 1 since we're taking it from here, so 0 or 1. And we're saying if active equals 0, remember to use a double equals for comparison operator. And then we're going to say echo, you haven't activated your account, please check your email. And then we give the user their email here. So basically we've in one line or a couple of lines, we've checked if the user's account is active, since we have this either set to 0 or 1. So else, presuming this is 1, session username equals username, and then we're going to refresh the page back to index.php. So we've just simply checked if the active is set to 0. You already know how to use the link in the email, so this should be pretty clear that if this is 0, then they haven't clicked the link on the email, and then obviously we're just logging them in otherwise. So we can run through this. I'm going to say Kyle123, you haven't activated your account. Let's go back, let's open up my email, and I'm going to click that. Your account has been activated, and then again obviously we refresh, you've already activated your account. Back here, Kyle123, log in, and you are logged in. Because that active here, although it's 0 now, I'm going to refresh the page. That's been changed to 1. So through a simple PHP script and an addition to our register, we've enabled the user to click using a unique code in a get variable form, match that to the database, and use a simple SQL query to update this active to 1, providing this exists in the database. So it really is simple. You just need to incorporate this into your login, your register, and then obviously create your new activate.php, your activate.php file. Okay, so that's pretty much it for now. That's the basis of this. I understand that I didn't do any coding. This is because it's sort of an adaptation from previous tutorials and just using this email activation. So as long as you've created your login and register script, you should have a good idea about how to use this. Because I haven't coded anything, I've put this script inside the forum. If you go to the forum and go to the source code subsection, then you will find this source code in there, readily available to take away and use for yourself and study. Okay, so thanks for watching the tutorial. I hope this helped, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.